And welcome inside DETV. Nick Alessandrini live from the studios with a mini sports update. We're here just ahead of getting the news shot and getting everything ready this evening. And, Nick, why not educate everybody a little bit of what's going on with our Philadelphia sports this week? So I'm a company man, a man of the people, and here I am here live, and we're going to break down a few big things here throughout Philadelphia that's happened this week. So we've got a lot to go over, and what a day it was yesterday evening. The Eagles' 2025-26 schedule has been officially released. We have it. I have not yet had the time to go through it and kind of collect my thoughts. We're going to do that all live right here today. We're going to go 1 through 16. We're going to get my thoughts on the schedule, some of the interesting matchups that the Birds have, and then I want you to let us know how you feel about the Eagles' schedule here. If you're a sicko like me, I'm already looking forward to football season, and we are just in about mid-May, so a lot to get into there. We have the Eagles' schedule, and then we're still in basketball season. I know we're all trying to maybe forget about what the Philadelphia 76ers have done this year, but some bright spots earlier this week on Monday with the draft lottery. We're going to talk a little bit about that as well. Could have went two ways for the Sixers. Could have lost the pick, could have kept it. So, again, a positive news, as I alluded to there, so maybe something a little foreshadowing to look forward to. We're going to dive into it all, get your opinion. Should the Sixers take with their pick? Should they keep the pick? And then your, of course, thoughts on the entire Eagles schedule as we go through it. So, without further ado, let's dive right in, weeks 1 through 17 with the Eagles, and take a look at what it's looking like for the Birds during their defending Super Bowl tour. So, let's start in with week number 1. We got this leak a little while ago. They're going to open up on that opening Thursday, NBC, prime time, give the Birds their rings, hang the banners against the Dallas Cowboys in week 1. So it's always a little bit sweeter when you can hang the banners, get the rings, and celebrate with Dallas and Jerry Jones in the building. So that's going to be sweet there to open up the season for the Philadelphia Eagles. And in my opinion, 1-0 Philadelphia. Week 2, we get our Super Bowl rematch. We all have that image of Jalen Carter punching Patrick Mahomes still fresh in our minds, and it is a beaut. I know they have that over at the practice facility in Philadelphia, as they should, and what a play and what a memory that's going to be. Well, they've got the Chiefs in week 2 this year. So week 2, the Super Bowl rematch, the NFL not waiting long to get that done. So the Eagles, they're going to pack their bags, head on the road to Arrowhead Stadium to take on Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. So there you have it there with the first 2 weeks. Let's dive to week number 3, Birds returning home. A few things about this schedule that I want everybody to know that kind of has me a little bit irritated. Thing number 1, the Eagles have over 10 games against teams this year that made the playoffs a season ago. That is an NFL record. So again, that's going to be tough. Double-digit playoff teams, and it can vary. That's one thing I will say. You never know how teams are going to be from one year to the next, so we don't know if those playoff records or if the strength of schedule is going to live up to that. But on paper, looking pretty tough for Philadelphia. Also, no back-to-back home games all year long. They're not going to be at the link 2 consecutive weeks for the entire 25-26 season. So again, the NFL, we got all that talk about banning the push-tush earlier this year and how that was gaining momentum, and now no back-to-back home games, 10-plus games against teams with a playoff record from a season ago. Why does the NFL seem to hate the Eagles a little bit? That's what I'm kind of gathering out of all this here soon. So there you have it there with the first couple weeks. Let's stick to week 3 now. Eagles are back home at the link. They get this. I almost said the St. Louis Rams. See, me and Dennis were talking before the show about the Oakland and San Diego, and it's now the LA Rams. So the LA Rams, they're going to come to Philly week 3, and I still remember it. It's still fresh after that snow victory, that close, narrow game at the link. Saquon, some big runs. I'm smiling thinking about it. But again, you had the Rams fans and even the Eagles haters after that game saying, the Rams should have won that game, coming down the stretch if there's this call or this call. No. Let's stop that right now. Eagles got the victory then. They're going to get the victory here in week number 3. Rams had no business winning that game. Eagles went on to win the Super Bowl. Let's stop all that here for the moment. So they get the Rams there in week 3. We're going to jump now to week 4, and this is where Dennis's team comes in. That's right. You all heard me right. Dennis, our very Dennis here at DETV in the Wilmington area, Pennsylvania Dennis. He is a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan. That is true. He's probably got a jersey on back there right now if I didn't know any better. And that's one team I guess the Eagles have a little bit of difficulty against is Tampa Bay. So they struggle a little bit with the Bucs. This one, once again, on the road. So back-to-back years where they got to go on the road and take on those cannonballs down in Tampa. This one scares me a little bit about the Buccaneers. For some reason, they seem to have the Eagles' number. I'm sure if the stakes were a little bit higher, I'd count the Eagles to get that victory. But a tough one here in week 4, so not sure how that one's going to go with the struggles the Eagles have had against Tampa. Tampa, a pretty good team, so we'll see how the Eagles can do there. They got to go on the road in week 4. Week 5, they return home. We've got the AFC West this year, so we've got the Broncos, the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Raiders. It all starts with the Chiefs in week 2, and then we get to week 5. We are back home. Again, not having to travel over to Mile High. Actually, I like that, so we get the Broncos in Philly. Bo Nix coming to town for the first first time. Love what the Eagles could do in that possible matchup. Again, though, not an easy matchup. Denver, a pretty good team, obviously, last season. And then week 8, we get our first taste of the New York Giants. Again, obviously, all the success we had against them last year. Jackson Dart, who knows will be the quarterback, though, by this time. We're talking week 6. I mean, you're thinking Jameis Winston, Russell Wilson's going to be the starter. Jameis maybe the backup. Maybe Dart overtakes Jameis as the backup as the season kind of progresses a little bit. But I would imagine at week 6, we don't see Jackson Dart yet. We're going to maybe have a Russell Wilson game there with the New York Giants. So I love that. Give me all that of Russell Wilson, though he does tend to play a little bit better in the beginning of the season than he does towards the tail end. But I will take a Russell Wilson-led New York Giants team there, even on the road at the Meadowlands in week 6. Victory, Eagles. Now to week 7, back-to-back games on the road. We are heading now over to Minnesota to take on the Vikings. Again, a lot of question marks with the Vikings coming in this year. Last year, the big talk was the NFC North was the best division in football. Bears underachieved, of course. You can make the argument the Packers underachieved. Lions, they lived up to it. Minnesota, great year last year. Sam Darnold, what a way to end the season, though. A few tough losses to lose the division, and then they lose there in their first playoff matchup. So you take a look at the Vikings this year. No Sam Darnold. He's in Seattle. You get J.J. McCarthy, right? Number 9 overall pick last year. High expectations. I'll tell you what, watching those throws in the preseason last year, he looked pretty damn good before that devastating ACL injury. So a very tough injury to come back from. He's supposedly be good, ready to go. I know they wanted to add a veteran. Didn't really quite add that just yet, but it's going to be McCarthy as the starter. Who knows what that looks like? You got Aaron Jones, a little bit older. Defense was fantastic under Brian Flores last year, so we'll see how they transition. Is the defense going to be as good as last year? We don't know. How about the offense with J.J. McCarthy? A lot of unknowns, but that's who the Eagles get there in week number 6 to go back-to-back games on the road. 6 at the Giants, week 7 on the road at the Vikings. We're returning home after that little stretch. Get the Giants back at home, so going to be good to return home with a little bit of an easier matchup there. You get Jackson Dart, maybe potentially, depending how things go in the first matchup. Either way, there is a chance with these games both falling in week 6 and week 8 that we don't see Jackson Dart at all here for the Giants at the season if he takes over maybe later down the line. So 2 games possibly against Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. Sign me up. Even though division games are tough, we'll take the victory there. Bye week comes in week 9 for the Eagles here so far this year. And then week 10, we opened up last year in Brazil against the Packers. We get the Packers again, this time week 10 on the road, heading to Lambeau Field. So again, a rematch there with Jordan Love, Josh Jacobs, and the Pack, who added Matthew Golden in the draft, a few other receivers, Savion Williams, trying to get that offense going, get the ball down the field a little bit more. They relied way too much on that rushing game last year with Josh Jacobs, so we'll see what they can get that going a little bit better. Defense might improve a little there. So the Packers, not an easy matchup. And then we're rolling from one NFC North team to the next. From week 10 to week 11, we are back home on Sunday Night Football, prime time, under the lights. Detroit Lions, the matchup that I dreamed about all year last year, who I thought we would get in the NFC Championship. Lions, Eagles, 1 and 2 in the NFC in that conference all season long. We unfortunately didn't get that. Jaden Daniels kind of ruined that for me. And now we're going to get it here in week 11 in Philly at the Link. Dan Campbell, Jared Goff, and company come to town. Aiden Hutchinson's going to be recovered. He'll be ready to go on that defense. That is going to be a fun one on Sunday night in week 11. And then we get to week 12, November 23rd. As the Cowboys and the Eagles will play their second time of the season. This one's going to be on the road in Dallas. And for everybody at home, I don't even know how this got here. I found this. I was walking around the studio one day, and it was in the back. I don't know who's a Cowboys fan or what it's even doing here. But again, I don't know. Eagles are going to get 2 victories there with these 2 matchups coming up, so we don't care about that one in week 12. Let's go to week 13 now, continuing with the NFC North trend, and this one has a bunch of unknowns. We're talking about the Chicago Bears and Ben Johnson, now the head coach of Caleb Williams. What an article that came out earlier this week about Caleb Williams, some of the struggles that he had to endure with that coaching staff of Matt Eberflus and Shane Waldron calling the plays. Didn't work out there for Chicago, but now they've got the most coveted coaching candidate in the last couple years in the offensive coordinator from Detroit, Ben Johnson, who's supposed to transform this Bears team, transform that offense with the former number 1 overall pick in Caleb Williams. They add Luther Burden in the draft. They add Colston Loveland in the draft. The defense has always been pretty good. They're going to have to get the run game going. We'll see how the Bears do. But again, Bears, one of those teams that, again, a lot of variance for their season coming up. They could be really good, could be really bad. But overall, a tough schedule so far. To week 14, back out, or this time for the first time, to L.A. to take on the Chargers. We got the Rams and the Chargers in this year's schedule. So we're going to take on Herbert and Harbaugh. That game, December 8th, Monday Night Football. So Eagles with, I believe, 5 primetime games. Not a lot of Sunday action if you're an Eagles fan. So you could check out some of the competition here this year in the regular season. Week 15, we are staying with the AFC West, and then we return home to take on the Raiders and Ashton Genty. So we get the phenom running back draft prospect with the Raiders. He's now going to come to town here at Lincoln Financial Field. Tom Brady, a minority owner with the Raiders. Geno Smith signed that new contract there with Las Vegas. So again, it's going to be a fun year. That one's going to be a competitive game as well. Eagles win by 20. We're going to keep going. Week 16. This is where we get the Commanders. So we round out the final 3 weeks of the season. Commanders 16 and Commanders 18. So a meaningless game potentially depending how the regular season goes in week 18 against the Commanders. So we'll see if we even see Hurts, Daniels, etc., depending how the regular season goes for both teams. We get them for the first time in week 16. So we got the 2 of the Giants games early on. The Cowboys were wrapped up with by week 12. And then we got the Commanders twice in the final 3 weeks of the season. And then how about a week 17 trip to Buffalo? So a little bit tough there. Who knows how the weather's going to be there. Week 17, December 28th in Buffalo, 4:25 p.m. Never easy when those two teams get together. Going to be a tough one for the Birds on the road. But again, they can overcome the weather. We've seen them do it before. It might be a snowfest in Buffalo there for Week 17. So we've been through it. Week 18, we round out with the Commanders. So let us know what you feel about the schedule. 10-plus games against playoff teams from a season ago. I mean, it does not get much harder than that. Again, a tough one for the Eagles. No back-to-back home games during that season as well. So schedule has been released. What do you think? What are the easiest games? What are the toughest games? And well, the easiest games might just be the Cowboys and the Giants. But other than that, might be a little bit tough for the Birds come next year. So schedule release yesterday. We're already thinking about next football season, and it'll be here, I'm sure, before we know it. It's almost like a little bit like Christmas when we begin that Hall of Fame game over there in the preseason. So from football over to basketball here quickly as we round out our mini live update, live from DETV here. Nick Alessandrini chatting with you about some of the Philadelphia sports things going on this week. And that takes us to we round out the Philadelphia 76ers coming into the NBA draft lottery on Monday, which might I add, was my birthday. So Monday was my birthday. Heading in, they had the 6th highest chance to get the 6th pick in the draft, or excuse me, get the top pick. So if they were out of the top 7, they would lose the pick to the Thunder. It was a top 6 protected pick. 6 or higher, they keep it and get to select in the first round. So I'm thinking, it's my birthday. Good things can happen. But if you remember back to 2019, it was May 12th. It was a Sunday. Series tied 3-3 between the Raptors and the 76ers. And Kawhi Leonard hit a shot in the corner as time expired to send the Sixers home advance, and then he would go on to win an NBA championship. I seem to mark that as one of the low moments of my sports fandom. It happened on my birthday. Ruined my birthday for about 4 or 5 years to this point. So when you think about that, I didn't have high expectations going into Monday, but what do you know? The Sixers grabbed the 3rd pick in the draft. Not only do they get to keep it, they get to pick 3rd. And if you're coming in, you can chat with our Matthew Maurer here as we progress into the season, our draft expert. But he'll tell you there are 3 top prospects in this draft in Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey, then of course the number 1 prospect Cooper Flagg, who will be a Dallas Maverick. That's a whole nother story. We don't have to talk about the Mavericks getting the number 1 pick. We're going to talk about that on Monday on DETV Sports. Make sure you tune in there. That is a whole nother discussion. But the Sixers, they get that 3rd pick. And now they get a chance at a premier prospect in this year's draft. So we keep it. We get a top 3 pick. We're going to have Maxey PG, we'll see, coming back next year. Says he's going to be fully healthy. Embiid going to be healthy. Still a lot of question marks, but at least, you can see a little bit of the sun there coming through the clouds. So a little bit of some positive news there for the Philadelphia 76ers. But in other news, Giannis has played his last game as a Buck. So now I ask you this, everyone at home. Would you trade that 3rd pick in a package for Giannis Antetokounmpo? And again, who knows? His time in Milwaukee could be up. He's 30 years old, was healthy for a lot of last season, hasn't dealt with the injuries in a few years. So we'll see. Is that worth the 3rd overall pick in this draft? Probably going to have to be a little bit more on top of it. But again, Giannis wants out of Milwaukee, wants to go to a big market. What would you do, Sixer fans? Would you trade that pick for Giannis? Would you try to? Would you stay there and select Bailey, Harper, whoever remains? So a lot of question marks there for the Sixers as we get into draft season, June 25th, 26th. June 25th, that night, we're all going to be locked in to that 3rd pick when the Sixers are on the clock, and we'll see what Daryl Morey and company has in store there. So we went through the Eagles schedule, things heating up for the Sixers as well. That'll do it for your mini sports update here. Nick Alessandrini at DETV.